There is a building on University Avenue in Rochester, New York, that the city has nearly forgotten. Brick walls stained by 100 winters. Machinery that once shaped the gears inside the cars Henry Ford put on American roads. And behind it all, not a great man in a top hat, but an 11-year-old girl doing bookkeeping by lantern light, who grew up to conquer an industry the entire world said belonged to men. This is the story of the Gleason Works, and it is one of the strangest, most forgotten American stories you have never heard. Welcome to Mystic America. Subscribe so you never miss a story. Before we go any further, ask yourself, when you think of a gear, what do you picture? Something small, something mechanical, something anonymous, hidden inside a machine, doing its job in silence. Nobody writes songs about gears. Nobody names their children after the men who made them. And that is exactly why the story of the Gleason Works disappeared. Because it was too industrial, too unglamorous, too ordinary looking from the outside. But underneath that brick exterior on University Avenue, something extraordinary happened, something built, in large part, by a woman that history almost erased entirely. It begins in 1836, in a small town in County Tipperary, Ireland. A boy named William Gleason is born into poverty and hunger. At 15, he boards a ship with his mother and his brother, crosses the Atlantic, and arrives in America with almost nothing but a willingness to work. He finds his footing in Rochester, New York, a city booming in the mid-1800s. The Erie Canal has made it a hub of commerce. The Genesee River powers its mills. It is a city of possibility for a young Irish immigrant willing to get his hands dirty. William apprentices in Rochester machine shops, learns metalworking from the ground up, then goes to work at Colt's Armory in Hartford, Connecticut during the Civil War, the same factory producing firearms that defined that conflict. He watches precision manufacturing up close. He absorbs it like a man who knows he will need it later. When the war ends, William comes back to Rochester. In 1865, on a stretch of land along the Genesee River called Brown's Race, a place of waterfalls and mill wheels and industrial noise, he opens his own machine shop. It is tiny. It is humble. He makes lathes and planers, tools for other people to use. But William Gleason is not a man who stays humble for long. 9 years after opening his shop, in 1874, William Gleason does something that changes American industry forever. He invents the first bevel gear planer. Bevel gears are the gears that allow power to change direction. They are the mechanism that lets an engine's force reach the wheels of a vehicle. Before Gleason's machine, bevel gears were cut by hand. Imprecise, slow, expensive. His machine made them fast, accurate, and cheap to produce at scale. Orders came in. The shop grew. William moved his family into the business. His children worked alongside him. The oldest, a girl named Kate, started at 11 years old, sitting at her father's books after school, doing the accounting that kept the shop alive. This is where the story gets haunted. Kate Gleason was born in 1865, the same year her father opened his machine shop. She grew up breathing metal shavings and machine oil. She understood gear tolerances before most girls her age understood arithmetic. And she was brilliant. In 1884, at 19 years old, Kate enrolled in the mechanical arts program at Cornell University, the first woman ever admitted to that engineering program. She sat in classrooms full of men who did not want her there. She excelled, and then her father called her home. The family business was struggling. Her brother Tom, who had worked alongside William, had died young. The shop needed her. Kate later wrote about the moment she received her father's letter. She took it out onto the Cornell campus, sat under a tree, and wept. She said her heart broke utterly. She had planned to finish the engineering course. She was the only woman there. It meant everything. She went home anyway. And what she did next is the part that history forgot. Kate Gleason did not come home to be a secretary. She came home to save a company, and then to build an empire. She became the firm's chief sales representative. In an era when women did not travel alone on business, Kate packed her bags and crossed the United States and Europe selling gear-cutting machines. She went to England, to Scotland, to France, to Germany. She walked into factories and spoke to industrial managers who had never in their lives taken a meeting with a woman about heavy machinery. She was so technically fluent, so relentless, so persuasive that the impossible happened. The automobile industry exploded in the early 1900s. Every car needed bevel gears. Every car needed the machines that cut bevel gears. And the Gleason Works was the company the entire world turned to. Henry Ford bought Gleason machines. He was so struck by Kate's technical mastery that he reportedly believed she had invented the bevel gear planer herself. She received membership in the American Society of Mechanical Engineers in 1914, the first woman ever admitted. She received membership in the German Engineering Society, again, the first woman. She was called the First Lady of the gear industry. She was called the Marie Curie of machine tooling. Meanwhile, the factory on Brown's Race had outgrown itself. In 1904, the Gleasons acquired a new site on University Avenue. The first building went up in 1905. By 1911, all operations had moved to what would become known as 1000 University Avenue, a sprawling industrial campus that would define Rochester's manufacturing identity for the next century. But here is where the dark current runs beneath the surface. Kate Gleason resigned from the family company in 1913. The exact reasons are disputed, lost in the polite language of the era. Some accounts suggest conflict with her brothers over the direction of the business. Others suggest she had simply outgrown it, that a woman who had conquered European markets could not be contained inside a family firm that still treated her, on some level, as the girl who kept the books. She left quietly. No dramatic exit. No public fight. She walked out of 1000 University Avenue and reinvented herself again and again for the rest of her life. She became a bank president during World War I, the first woman to hold that position at a national bank in American history. She pioneered affordable concrete housing for working-class families in East Rochester, creating what became known as Gleason Village. She lived by a Latin motto she kept her whole life: Possum volo, I can if I will. She died in 1933. Her estate, nearly $1.5 million, was left almost entirely to Rochester institutions. Her final bequest helped transform the city's Mechanics Institute into what is today the Rochester Institute of Technology. In 1998, RIT named its entire College of Engineering after her, the Kate Gleason College of Engineering, the first engineering school in America named for a woman. But the factory she built, the one on University Avenue, did not end so cleanly. The Gleason Works survived for decades after Kate's departure. It survived the Depression. It survived World War II, when its precision gear machines were critical to the war effort. It went public on the New York Stock Exchange in 1968. It was taken private again in 1999. It expanded globally: Germany, Switzerland, Japan, China. The name Gleason became synonymous worldwide with gear engineering precision. But Rochester was changing. The great manufacturing city that had given the world Eastman Kodak, Xerox, Bosch and Lohm, and Gleason was hollowing out. Plants closed. Workers left. Neighborhoods that had hummed with factory noise went silent. And the original campus on University Avenue, those early brick buildings that Kate helped fill with orders, that William built from nothing on the banks of the Genesee, began to show their age. Some structures were demolished. Others sat empty. the machinery long gone, the floors dusty, the windows dark. What remains today is a ghost of what it was. A campus where the world's most precise gear machines once ran day and night, now partially occupied, partially silent. A monument to an industrial age that Rochester has never quite come to terms with losing. Here is the twist that the history books never captured. When researchers went looking for the records of Gleason's global expansion, the contracts that launched a tiny Rochester shop into the dominant force of a worldwide industry, they found Kate's fingerprints on almost everything. The European orders, the American automotive accounts, the technical correspondence that convinced factory owners from Michigan to Bavaria to trust a machine shop on the Genesee River with their most critical production needs. A company built by an Irish immigrant who fled famine became dominant because his daughter, barred from finishing her engineering degree, told by 100 conventions that she did not belong, refused to accept any of it. And when she left without a word of bitterness. The building on University Avenue still stands. The name Gleason is still on it. But ask any Rochester resident today who really built that company, and most will not know her name. Kate Gleason. Possum Volo. I can't if I will. She did. And the gears inside the machines inside the factories that built the American century were cut on the machines she sold. Subscribe to Mystic America for more stories.